Okay, our next cab off the rank is Bruce Thompson from Temora. Again, same format. We're going to have a 5 to 6 minute video session. I encourage you, because you will hear so many interesting things from Bruce, that you write down your questions as you go through, because it's very easy just to focus on the last thing that he says, but I know you're going to have a barrage of questions for Bruce. We want to see him on his toes.
The system we've put in place now, we've been on a loosen cropping system for 30 years. We see that as this next system we're going to as a brown manure system. We see that as the next one for probably the next 30 years. We're planning on doing peas, which we're after biomass, and we're sowing them early, and we're instead of sowing them last, we're after, I think the return is 3 to 5% of dry matter is the amount of nitrogen you'll fix. We'll only dry the profile to 60 centimetres instead of taking it down to that 1.2, 1.5. We'll follow it up with canola, so there'll be a 2-year weed break and then 2 wheat crops. I'm just happy with broadacre cropping. Like, who says the system we got now is right or wrong? But I saw canola crops in Canada that were 18 crops in a row on the one paddock. Been on block farming for a number of years, and we just put all the, like this block here is majority or half of it is this brown manure, then the other half's wheat. The next property we're going to is just all canola. Came to this property in 1993, took every fence off the place, 99% of them, and we put in some strategic laneways and then opened the paddocks up. They're all vary between that sort of 200 to 300 hectares, and we break them up with electric fencing when we were in the pasture phase to run our stock on them. So it was the only way we could get grazing pressure on, was to reduce the paddock size to down under about sort of 80 to 100 hectares. Economies of scale with stock we struggle with, where if we've got 1 or 1,000 we've got to handle everyone individually. The sheep area we struggle with, because every time we went near them we didn't know if we were going to spend 1 hour or 3 or 5 hours. Timeliness, start on time and try and get your seeding and harvest operations and spraying and all that stuff done at a suitable time. And the problem is with the cropping is when we get enough scale, we'll never get 100% of it in the right window. We need a really good reason to be out there between midnight and 6 AM. And it all gets sorted out by the weather. You're just trying to give something a chance. No employees, brother and father, and father's 82 and drives everything. So he drives the seeder during the day and the harvester, which could be seen as, I don't know, adult abuse, I guess. So that's a major issue with our business coming up. Do we employ? And the gear's a lot bigger now. We can buy bigger machines, so one labour unit will do a lot more. Our big cost is our fertiliser, the biggest cost, $100 a hectare on average, and we will put that on as late as possible. We will not change our sowing program, that'll be set, but at the end of the day we're not going to put nitrogen on up front, because otherwise we need a 6-month crystal ball. The growing season system we use is a third of our February and March rain, then April through to the middle of October. We've come up with a number like 16 kilos per millimetre. That works for us. It's consistent in the bad years and the average years. In the really good years, none of them work. We're just trying to look after the bottom side and keep our costs down. We're farming moisture, which everybody is, and trying to get a return on it. Yeah, plenty of fun in the price risk area. Of recently, we've been happy to just pool our grains, and we've decided that we probably need to be more active again. We thought that once the deregulation happened, we maybe should start looking at putting storage up. But the deregulated system today seems that nobody wants to touch it unless it's in the system. The system we're in at the moment is managing the downside to the business. We went into minimum tillage in the early 1990s with the view that it took the bottoms out of the dry years, and now we're going into a disc system and leaving our stubble there and brown manure system, which is hopefully will take the bottoms out of the bad years. In the good years, everything works. It doesn't matter what we do. The big impacts were probably frost on the business because it takes everything away at the end. The dry years, you see them coming anyway. It's no surprise. We all decided to cut in 2008, cut the crop for hay because it was a better gross margin. It took weeks to do it, and then the whole thing started to rain, so at the end of the day, I think we burnt 2/3 of the canola in the row in February. We didn't even bale it. Everybody will have slightly different views. That's why you have different advisors. So when you're sitting at the table, we're always bringing someone in from the outside who sees it more clearly. Accountant, farm management consultant, and the members of the business. When we sit down, we all are part of all the decision making. We do not specialise in any one area, so everybody's aware of all parts of the business. We always analyse everything we do and question why we do it every time. And it's not an easy one. Where do you put your time in? You need to be at the school assemblies. You just need to be in there watching the girls play netball and the boys playing football, because they'll grow up very quickly. So I'm at that stage. The issues in farming were the succession planning is, what stage do you decide to, or what direction all your partners are going in your business. Now in our system we've already planned that all out, restructured everything, revalued the whole lot, so it's just a work in progress.
Okay, thank you very much, Bruce. It's a real challenge. I watched these videos for the first time yesterday, and I did wonder not only how I would control your questions, but how I'd control myself to say, look, you know what, guys, I'm sure you've got good questions, but I think I'd just like to ask my own. So I will give you, again, 15 minutes opportunity to ask questions, and Bruce has given you a huge scope and a huge range of things that we can discuss now for the next 15 minutes. While I come down there and while you think of some of your questions, Bruce, I am a bit concerned about your father, I must say. What are your plans? What are you going to do when he wants to stop driving that tractor and harvester?
That's a hard one. Father turns up every day at 7 o'clock in the morning and just wants to sit on something all day, so we give him the easiest job we have, which is usually on the best piece of machinery, but that'll come to an end. We've employed people in the past with extensive livestock industries, piggeries and feedlots, and we've gone through a stage where the last 20 years since I've been back on the farm where we don't employ anybody. It gives us a lot more flexibility, but nothing moves unless we're sitting on it. So Dad's at the end of it. I don't have a 20-year view with him, and he will, which is a bit harsh, but he really enjoys it, and we can't slow him up. We just try and get him out of there at dark, and he won't have it any other way. We employed someone once to drive the seeding equipment. He puts all the crop in and takes it all off, and he was very rejected by the whole idea. So we'll need to look at it. The business will split up in the next couple of years, and I don't know what we're going to do with Dad. Imagine, look after him, I guess. It's a bit of a hard one, isn't it?
Ian Evans, you said in your presentation that when you go to do your sheep work, you never know whether you're going to spend 1 hour or 3 with them. Do you think if you applied the same rigour in planning to your sheep operation that you apply to your crop operation, that you might have a better idea of how much time you'd be committing?
That is a good question, so true. We've gone out of stock in '98. We were running, before I came home, we were running breeding systems in the 60s, then in the 70s it was all pigs and feedlot cattle. And all in my time in the 80s and 90s it was wethers, and we're running them because they were 10% of our income, so we give them 10% of the time. So they got 5 weeks a year, 2 weeks for shearing, week for crutching, and run them in big mobs, like one mob of 8,000 or 9,000 or 2 at 4.5. And then we got OJD in 01, or the neighbours did, and all of us went down. So we stepped out for 3 years, went back in 05, and in 2008 we just decided that it was easier for us to just focus on the cropping And the key point probably is about 2,000 hectares of crop seemed to be the number where people were could do a good job of both operations or enterprises, and when they went over that, one of them seemed to struggle. So the weathers were simple, good. We found that if we went to the paddock and there was flies, or we had laneways, we had electric fencing, we would knock up a couple of kilometres of electric fencing in half a day, and it was good to be there for the lucerne phase, but we're struggling with the pasture phase. Establishing the lucerne is expensive. The returns we get offered in the 2 or 3 years we had it, and then we weren't getting a return on the crop when we brought the pasture phase back in due to the dry profile and the high nitrogen levels. So that is more the reason why we've gone out of the stock as well. And it's, so that's why we've changed the farming system. And if we went near the stock, we didn't know if we were going to spend 1 hour or 5 hours. And we had a very simple system. Our advisors tell us if to go into a breeding operation, we'd need to give up 60% of the year probably. And it's cheaper. We've got a lot of expensive equipment on cropping. The stock is very low cost, low return, or lower return if I can say that. But we're just happy with cropping at this stage. The other point too was the stock. I find it hard to find anyone under the age of 40 years of age who's really keen on their stock. It seems to be an older generation. I don't know why that is. Maybe all the technology and everything's in the cropping side of it. So that's right around the question. But yeah, we could have done our time management better on it, but we've... every time we'd spend time in the sheep yards, it was great on the first day, we loved it. But by the time we got to day 5, we'd had enough. It was sort of too much.
Thanks, Bruce, very much for that. I think there's some other indicators there other than the numbers, and it'll be very, very interesting to hear some of our producers who are a bit more into the sheep mix next.
Stuart Dayard, Lethen. On the brown manuring, was that desiccation or was it taking the crop out because it wouldn't yield? And second supplementary question to that, the risk in labour, is that one of the reasons why you wouldn't want to take it on?
Sorry, Stuart, missed the second part of the question. The first part is, sorry, it's not green manure, it was actually brown manure. We're just spraying and letting it die down over summer.
Just your standard brown manuring practices. All right. Okay. With your labour, the risk of employing labour, is that one of the reasons why you don't take labour on?
No, we have. Watch what I say. I might have the unions or somebody after me. When we were young, we had employed like 3 full-time staff. We were vertically integrated with piggeries and cattle feedlots, and sort of my parents have said it's a lot easier if we didn't have to be at the workshop every morning at 7 o'clock with plan A and plan B for staff, and then to fill the gaps during the year at the quieter times. Like, staff are great, and we've tended to go to bigger machinery where one labour unit just does more hectares or more acres per day on bigger sprayers or bigger seeders. So our forefathers had 3 or 4 people on a machine, whether it was a harvester or something. In my time, it's all been one person, one machine, and then the machines just got bigger. But that has a limitation eventually. We haven't had to sort of... we've kept out of that side of the business, employing people for flexibility or freedom of our time. If we've got a wet day, we can have the day off. So that's probably more the point, but we will need to go there. That's the reality of it. And we don't have a problem with staff. That's fine. We tend to bring people in with their own gear. To employ staff, we'll bring in harvesting contractors, spray contractors. We did with our stock. Full contract on shearing. Is that fair course, you?
Yeah, no, it's based on the full model, yep.
Any more questions up the front? Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I noticed you mentioned talking about, sorry, Peter Wynn, CSU, you're talking about using consultants of various sorts, bank managers, and these guys are all specialists in their own specific area. How important is you getting together with other farmers and benchmarking against each other and discussing the issues to resolve some of the problems that these consultants can't really solve?
Combination of everything is really good. We used to enjoy comparative analysis in years gone by when FM 500 groups and different ag bureaus and even our private consultants used to do that. So we've had farm management consultants as long as I can remember, and they've been really good. The outside view, the farming part is really good. The agronomy sector's changed so much in my time. I think when I first came back to the farm in the early to mid 80s, it was just the start of like private agronomists. And now there's companies doing research trials and all sorts of things rather than the government departments doing it. The farming one's more of a social letdown. If neighbour is probably your biggest threat, he will be competing to buy the next place with you, or he's also your friend and your mate. So it depends how open you are with your business. And but we often discuss a lot of things with the farming groups and with our advisors. But we're thrashing around in the business all the time. If you need somebody on the outside just clearing some of the noise up, or questioning why you're doing something. But university groups and bus trips are really good. It makes you pick up all the rubbish in the driveway. You've got to the dead sheep around the place, not that we ever had any. And it will also, you had to, whatever you said to the group, you had to back it up. Yeah, you had to, because somebody had asked a really simple question, you had to explain it. So a whole range of things is really good for your business, I think. And we run a family business. The business is there for the family. And we're into real estate. That's the other probably thing I wanted to point out today. The biggest part of our business is real estate. And then we're just on the side there trying to make some money out of it, and whether we crop it or run stock on it, or whether we step aside and rent it out to somebody else, lease it. We think we're probably good enough. Maybe we're delusional. We think we're good enough to make a fair return on it. But at the end of the day, we can step aside and just lease it or rent it off. So we're into real estate. It's the number one thing we're into. But that's a pretty wild answer, that one. Kat?
I've got a simple question. You said you like simple questions. Is capital cheaper than labour?
Tim, I'm a farmer and I love machinery. Yeah, David's probably a better one to answer. I have a view that we won't be driving the machinery, but yeah, it is expensive.
Well, again, I don't think it's a yes or no answer, but I think ultimately, you know, we have to take every opportunity to replace labour with capital, no matter what enterprise you're in. The problem in the sheep industry, there's not a lot of opportunity to do that. The cropping industry's been very good at doing that. And, you know, every year when the shearers turn up, the hand piece is the same width. Every year when the header turns up, it's got a bit more on the front. And so it's been fantastic at doing that. And the amount we've just heard, how much labour has been replaced on the farm. So, yes, I think so in most cases. You've got to look at every opportunity. And it's not just machines, it's lanes, it's a whole heap of things. Yep. And machines are easier to manage than people.
Thanks, David. Any more questions from the floor? What we might actually do, instead of me asking another one of my questions, is catch up a bit of time here. So if you want to go into those buzz sessions now for 5 minutes, let's talk amongst ourselves on the table. What were the ideas that came up during that session? What were the questions that it raised in your mind? Let's discuss that between yourselves on each of your tables for the next 5 minutes.